Imagine you're standing on a mountain, the wind whipping around you, your heart pounding like a drum against your ribs. Before you stands your father, the man who raised you, love and anguish warring in his eyes. In his hand, he holds a knife, but that's not even the most terrifying part. He believes God, the creator of the universe, has commanded him to sacrifice you. This isn't a scene from a horror movie. This is a story that has echoed through millennia. A story that asks a profound question. How far would you go to obey the voice of God? This is the story of Abraham and his son, Isaac. It's a tale that pushes the boundaries of human understanding. How could a loving father be willing to sacrifice his own child, the son he waited a lifetime for? What kind of faith requires such an impossible choice? This story forces us to confront the very essence of belief. Is faith about blind obedience, or is it about a deeper, more complex relationship with the divine? It's a question that has puzzled theologians, philosophers, and believers for centuries. Let's step back for a moment and understand the context. Abraham wasn't just any man. He was considered a friend of God, a patriarch who had been promised descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky. Isaac was the miracle child, the long-awaited fulfillment of that divine promise. He was everything to Abraham. In his early years, Isaac knew only the warmth of his mother's smile, the security of his father's love, and the gentle weight of a divine destiny he couldn't yet understand. And then came the test, a command from God that seemed to shatter every promise ever made. Abraham's face, once so full of joy when looking at his son, became a mask of solemn dread. He packed wood for a burnt offering, his movements heavy, his heart heavier. He couldn't bring himself to look at Isaac. As they walked, Isaac, full of innocent curiosity, broke the heavy silence. "Father," he asked. "Yes, my son," Abraham replied, his voice strained. "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac observed, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Every word was a knife in Abraham's heart. He looked up to the heavens, a single tear tracing a path through the dust on his cheek, and managed to say, "God himself will provide the lamb, my son." The journey to Mount Moriah took 3 days. But for Abraham, each step was a walk deeper into his worst nightmare. On that mountain, Abraham gently but firmly bound his beloved son on the altar of stone and wood. In Isaac's wide eyes, we can only imagine the dawning horror, the confusion, the betrayal. He saw his father, his protector, raise a knife. In that single, terrifying moment, Isaac's world of love and promise was replaced by a God of incomprehensible demand. But just as the knife reached its terrible peak, a voice thundered from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." The knife clattered to the rock. Abraham, gasping, rushed to untie Isaac, pulling him into a fierce, weeping embrace. Isaac, shaking and crying, was safe. As he looked over his father's shoulder, his terror-filled eyes saw it, a ram, caught by its horns in a nearby thicket. A perfect substitute. On that mountain, Isaac learned the lesson that would define his faith. Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide. It was a searing, unforgettable lesson in substitutionary grace. Isaac's life was one of transition. He wasn't a trailblazing pioneer like his father, Abraham, nor was he a relentless wrestler with God and man like his son, Jacob. He was the inheritor, the quiet keeper of the flame. After the death of his beloved mother, Sarah, a deep stillness fell upon Isaac. He was a man of the tents, a contemplative soul who found comfort in the familiar fields and the echoing memory of God's faithfulness on that mountain. Abraham, knowing his own time was short, was determined to see the promise continue. He called his most trusted servant, Eliezer, and made him swear a solemn oath. "Swear by the Lord," Abraham commanded, "that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites around us. Go back to my country, to my own relatives, and find a wife for my son Isaac there." So Eliezer set out on a mission of faith, a quest to find a wife for the child of the promise, not from the surrounding pagan cultures, but from their own faithful kin. And in a moment of beautiful, divine providence, the seeker and the sought met. As Isaac was walking in a field at dusk, meditating and praying, he looked up and saw a caravan approaching. It was Rebekah, who had agreed to leave her home and family to become his wife. She veiled herself and stepped down from her camel. Their eyes met, and in that moment, a connection was formed. Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and the scripture tells us, simply, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. In Rebekah, he found not just a wife, but a partner of equal spirit and strength. The promise was secure, but the path forward wasn't always smooth. Isaac's faith would be tested again, not by the edge of a knife, but by famine, fear, and his own human weakness. A severe drought scorched the land, and Isaac led his large household and flocks toward the land of the Philistines. God spoke to him, reaffirming the covenant. Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay here for a while, and I will be with you, and will bless you. But living among strangers, fear crept into Isaac's heart. When the local men asked about his beautiful wife, Rebekah, he was afraid they would kill him to take her. So he lied, just as his father had once done, saying, "She is my sister." This deception was exposed when the Philistine king, Abimelech, happened to see them being affectionate in a way that was clearly not brotherly. He summoned Isaac, furious. "She is really your wife. Why did you say she was your sister? You could have brought great guilt upon all of us." Like his father before him, Isaac stumbled. He was not a perfect man. Yet, even in his weakness, God's grace proved abundant. Isaac planted crops in that harsh, foreign land, and miraculously, he reaped 100-fold harvest in that same year. He became incredibly wealthy, and the Philistines grew envious of his success. In their jealousy, they filled in all the wells that his father Abraham had dug, a symbolic act of trying to bury his legacy and cut off his source of life. Finally, King Abimelech told him to leave. "Move away from us," he said. "You have become too powerful for us." Instead of fighting, Isaac moved his family to a nearby valley. He didn't respond with sword or spear. His weapon of choice was a shovel. His victory was perseverance. He began the hard work of redigging his father's wells, patiently reclaiming his inheritance not through war, but through peaceful persistence. Still, conflict followed. Local herdsmen argued over the first new well he dug, so Isaac, wanting peace, simply moved on and dug another. They argued over that one, too. Again, Isaac moved on. Finally, he dug a third well, and this time, no one quarreled over it. With a sigh of relief, Isaac named it Rehoboth, meaning room, saying, "Now the Lord has given us room, and we will flourish in the land." This quiet integrity had a powerful effect. Before long, King Abimelech himself came to Isaac, seeking peace. "We saw clearly that the Lord was with you," the king admitted. "Let us make a treaty." His enemies became his allies, not because he defeated them in battle, but because his undeniable blessing and the evident presence of God with him commanded their respect. Perhaps the greatest pain of Isaac's long life came not from enemies without, but from conflict within his own tent. The bitter struggle between his twin sons, Jacob and Esau, would threaten to tear the family and the promise apart. As Isaac grew old, his eyes became weak and blind. He openly favored Esau, the rugged hunter who brought him savory game. But his wife, Rebekah, favored Jacob, the quiet, thoughtful man who stayed among the tents. This favoritism created a fault line of tension that ran right through their family. One day, feeling his age, Isaac called for his favorite son. "I am old now," he told Esau. "Go out and hunt some wild game for me. Prepare it the way I love, so that I may eat and give you my blessing before I die." Rebekah overheard this and orchestrated a great deception. While Esau was out hunting, she helped Jacob disguise himself as his brother. Jacob brought the prepared food to his blind father. Isaac was suspicious. "Come near so I can touch you," he said. As he felt the goatskin on Jacob's arms, he murmured, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." Tragically, he was convinced. Isaac gave the powerful, irrevocable blessing of the firstborn to Jacob. Moments later, Esau returned, and the devastating truth was revealed. Esau let out a bitter cry of rage and despair as Isaac trembled violently, realizing what had just happened. "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing," he told a weeping Esau. "What then can I possibly do for you, my son?" In his old age, blinded by more than just a physical ailment, Isaac's passivity and favoritism had allowed deception to poison his family. Yet, in a profound and mysterious twist, the divine plan was still fulfilled. The blessing he intended for the older son was captured by the younger, fulfilling a prophecy that Rebekah had received even before the twins were born. Isaac's final significant act was not one of bitterness, but of resignation to the complex, overarching will of God. He sent Jacob away, not in anger, but to protect him from Esau's wrath and to find a wife from their own people, implicitly affirming the stolen blessing. Years passed, Rebekah died, and at the end of his long life, Isaac saw his family made whole again. He saw Jacob return, a wealthy man with 12 sons who would become the future tribes of Israel. He saw Jacob and Esau, who had reconciled years earlier, stand together at his bedside. He had navigated a life of quiet faith, from the terror of the altar to the peace of a reunited family. When he died, full of years, his 2 sons, Jacob and Esau, buried him together in the family tomb. He was not the architect of the promise like Abraham, nor its chief expander like Jacob. He was its faithful keeper, the crucial bridge between the father of faith and the nation of Israel. Isaac's life proves that a great life isn't always marked by dramatic conquests, but can be found in quiet faithfulness, perseverance through hardship, and the profound peace that comes from trusting in Jehovah Jireh, the God who provides. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more stories of faith